Hey class, Mrs. Anderson here. Hope you had a happy new year. It's officially January 1st of 2020. Today's video is going to be on simplifying complex fractions. There are two methods I'm going to focus on. There's probably more ways to simplify a complex fraction. First, a complex fraction contains a fraction in both the top and bottom. So it's like a fraction divided by a fraction. Fraction in the numerator and the denominator. There's two methods I'm going to focus on. First method, you simplify the numerator and denominator, and then you divide the numerator by the denominator. And if you remember, if you divide a fraction by another fraction, we use that keep, change, flip method. So keep the top fraction, change it to multiplication, flip the second. The second method is multiplying the numerator and denominator by the LCD, or the lowest common denominator of every fraction, and then simplify. And method two is the method that I tend to use more often. I think it just is easier because sometimes simplifying requires you to add and subtract the fraction, so you need a lowest common denominator anyway. Okay, so let's give it a shot. So here I have three fractions. I have 5 over 1 minus 2 over x over all over x, and I could think of that as x over 1. So if I look at the common denominators between the 1, the x, and the 1, the lowest common denominator of everything is just going to be a 1x. So if I take and I multiply everything by a 1x, and then I should be able to simplify it. So here we get 5x over 1. It's just going to be 5x minus, then 2x over x. The x's will cancel, so minus 2 all over x squared. And then I can't take anything out of the top, and I can't take anything out of the bottom, so that is your answer. So I use the method 2 there, where the lowest common denominator of all of the parts was just an x. Now this one's set up as just a nice fraction divided by another fraction. So this one I'm just going to do the keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep the first fraction the same, change this division, this fraction bar, into multiplication, and then flip the second fraction. And then you remember, multiplying fractions will have to factor anywhere. So x squared minus 1 is x plus 1 and x minus 1. So I can factor that. And x squared is like x times x. So you can factor that piece. And then I can divide out an x here with this x up here, and an x plus 1 with this x plus 1. So on the top, that leaves me with an x. And on the bottom, it leaves me with a 3 and an x minus 1. Or x and 3x minus 3, either one. All right, so I'm going to do this using method 2. I'm going to find the lowest common denominator of all three fractions. So these two fractions both have an x minus 4 in the denominator, and then this one has an x plus 1, which means your lowest common denominator has to have an x minus 4 and an x plus 1. So x minus 4 times x plus 1 is your lowest common denominator. So I'm going to multiply each fraction by x minus 4 and x plus 1. And you could put that over 1 if it helps you keep it straight, but just take each fraction times that. So you're timesing it on the top. So x minus 4, x plus 1 for 1. And essentially what this does is it cancels out our fractions, like x plus 4 and x minus 4 is in the top, cancel. And you're going to have 3 times x plus 1. And then on the bottom, this side, the x minus 1 cancels. So I have 1 times x plus 1. And then I have plus, then the x plus 1's cancel there. 3 times x minus 4. Now I can't, in the final answer here, I can't simplify the x plus 1s because I have a plus sign here. But what I can do is multiply this out. So I have 3x plus 3, and then 1x plus 1 plus 3x minus 12. Combining like terms, 3x plus 3, and on the bottom I'll have a 4x minus 11. And I have nothing in common factor in either of those, so that's the final answer for that one. All right, first, to find the lowest common denominator, see what they have in common, I want those denominators to be factored all the way. So if you notice in the top one, I could take out a 2, and then in this bottom left one, I can take out a 3, and then I also have an x plus 2. So they already all have an x plus 2. I'm actually going to do this one with method 1 so you can kind of see how that works. So method 1 was simplify the fractions on top and bottom and then divide. So if I wanted to do that, I'd want to combine do the addition on the bottom. To do that, I do have to have a common denominator, so this one will have to have a 3. So then I have 1 over 2x plus 2 on top over, and then it'll be 5 plus 9 over 3x plus 2. I got the 9 from the 3 times 3 and a common denominator of 3x plus 2. So then I'm going to keep the top fraction the same and change the fraction bar. Remember, this means division. I'm going to change that to multiplication, and I'm going to flip the second fraction. Oops. Can't write with highlighter. And then 5 plus 9 is 14. And then I'm going to multiply. So when I multiply, this becomes all one big fraction. I can simplify x plus 2 divided by x plus 2. So then I get 3. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 14 is 28. And 3 does not go into 28. So that is the answer. Okay, I'm going to use method 2, so I'm going to find the lowest common denominator between all 4 fractions here. So I don't like method 1 for this one necessarily, because then you have to find a lowest common denominator of the addition and a lowest common denominator for the subtraction. Simplify that, and then you still have to flip and multiply. So it becomes a lot of extra steps. Lowest common denominator of 2x, x plus 3, and x. So I know I need a 2x and I need an x plus 3. And then this bottom one is an x that's already taken care of here. So 2x, x plus 3 will be my common denominator. So then you multiply each piece by 2x, 2x, x plus 3 over 1. So you're multiplying it by the whole 2x, x plus 3 on the top, 2x, x plus 3, and 2x, x plus 3. And the idea behind this is to clear out the fractions and get rid of the fractions. So then the 2x's here cancel, and I have 1 times x plus 3. And then the x plus 3's cancel, and I'll have minus 6 times 2x. And then notice there's no more fractions on the top now. So then the bottom, x plus 3, so I have 2x times x plus, and then here just the x's cancel. So I have 1 times 2 is 2, and then times x plus 3. And then I'm going to multiply this all out so that I can combine like terms and simplify further. So if it's a whole number times a parenthesis, just make sure you distribute. X plus 3, and then 6 times 2x is negative 12x. Over 2x times x is 2x squared, and then 2x plus 6 when I distribute that 2 through on this one. So on the top I can simplify that to negative 11x plus 3. On the bottom, I could take out a 2 and I'd get x squared plus x plus 3. Anything multiply to 3 and add up to 1? No. I can't take anything out of the top. I can't factor it further, so that is your answer there. Okay. One more. Probably got the gist of it for now. Anytime you have a whole number, remember to write it over 1. And then the common denominator between x plus 1, x, and 1 will be you need an x and you need an x plus 1. So that's your lowest common denominator. So then multiply everything by x and x plus 1. And then the x plus 1's here, so I'll get 8 times x minus, here nothing cancels, so you get 5x times x plus 1 over, here the x's cancel, so I get 2 times x plus 1. Multiply it out so you can combine like terms. On the top we'll get 8x, and then negative 5x times x is negative 5x squared. Negative 5x times 1 is negative 5x. And then distribute the 2 on bottom, get 2x plus 2. Probably could have left that not distributed 2 because I'll factor it back out anyway. Combine like terms, I'm going to have x's on the top. So I'll have negative 5x squared plus 3x over, I can take out a 2 on the bottom and get x plus 1. You could also take out an x on the top, get negative 5x plus 3 over 2x plus 1. Now either answer there is acceptable because it really can't be simplified any further. They don't share a common factor, but I like to make sure that I factor it all the way so that I make sure that I can't take anything else out. Thanks for watching.